Alright guys and gals, Sarge 1911 here, and we're going to do a video today. You know, first of all, let me say thank you to everyone who has subscribed, and if you have not, please do. Click the little ringy dingy so you'll get a notification when we put one of these out. We're all having fun, so let's just stay on course. Also, don't forget to visit SGT 1911. We got some good stuff out there, and it'll help the kids over at Memphis whenever we do get a chance. Alright, here's the deal. You can't judge a book by its cover, right? Glock. You guys who watch my videos know I don't have a Glock, right? So, let's look in here and see what we got. This belongs to my son-in-law, and he wanted me to have a look at it. And you know, it's a 1911, but I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to do a review, and I'm going to give you my opinion. But let's talk about what he's got. Before I show it to you, let me give you a little bit of history. Back after the war, a lot of companies had access to a lot of surplus parts. Not necessarily guns, guns yes, but parts. So a lot of these manufacturers were buying up surplus parts and building their own guns. So you had part Remington, part Springfield, part Harrington Richardson, part Postal Meter, part Marlin. It goes on and on and on. And they would build these rifles, primarily 30-06 rifles in one carbines, and they called them Frankenguns. Today, with our AR platforms, most everything we buy is a Frankengun. So the word Frankengun is not new. The word Frankengun is probably 75, 80 years old. We just don't use that term, or we didn't know enough about history to know that Frankenguns go back decades and decades and decades. With an AR, you take Anderson lower, you take BCM charging handles, you get a Colt barrel, and you build you an AR platform rifle, just like putting together Legos. And what you have is an AR rifle, but using terminology from decades ago, you've got a Frankengun. People don't necessarily think about it that way, but you can apply the same thing to a 1911 handgun. Now, what a lot of people do, I'm going to assume they do, we all know about assumptions, it's what I do. Anytime I'm tinkering with a 1911, I get a new safety, a new hammer, a new trigger, something, I throw it in a tackle box, and eventually I have enough leftover parts where I can almost build a new handgun. So then I'll go buy a frame and put it all together, and lo and behold, what do I have? I have a Frankengun. And that's what we got here today. We got a Frankengun. Now, some of this 1911, I know personally where it came from. Part of it I do not. You know, part of it we have some Caspian parts back here. Part of it we have some Wilson Combat. Part of it we have some Nighthawk. You know, and part of it, you know, I think this is some Wilson Combat. You know, part of it is para-ordnance. It's all 45 ACP, but this is a Frankengun 1911 A1 model. Now, let's go back again. When the military adopted the 1911 in March of 1911, one of the requirements were, and one of the tests was, not only failure against Savage and some others, they took a bunch of 1911s, and now think about what we were talking about today, everything's modular. They took a bunch of 1911s and stripped them all down in little bitty pieces and put them in a big 5-gallon bucket or so, shook it all up, and then everybody got to pull out parts and assemble their own 1911. There's our first Frankengun 1911s right there. Before the military even adopted the 1911, there are already parts of this one and parts of this one and parts of this one and parts of this one. So from day one, even in the test phase, those were not the original parts that went on that 1911. And that's what we have here, a Frankengun. Got the magazine release. We got a different skeletonized trigger. Here's the 1911 A1 from the 20s. Very similar. Sights are similar. Everything's similar. But let's go back and look and see some particular parts. He's got a big nice hammer on there, skeletonized trigger, oversized safety, He's got GI issue sights. Look at those. You know, those are poor sights. Those are not good sights. That's U.S. military sights for back in the day. But, you know, a 1911, especially in the military, something like it is not an offensive weapon, it's a defensive weapon. We're too damn close, and we got to have something that we can use. I don't want to be missing. We can't afford to miss when we're that close. He put this compensator on the end of it. Now, you know, when we're building Frankenguns, there's a couple things you got to realize. You're going to build them with what parts you have available or what you have in your particular taste. I may or may not like a compensator. I may or may not like a Caspian safety. I may or may not like a Nighthawk trigger, but it's what I had available in my toolbox or what happened to be on sale that month at Midway USA. Anyway, what we do is we build one called a Frankengun. Now, does that mean it doesn't shoot? No. It can shoot every bit as well as the AR-15 you bought out of Colt, Anderson, Wilson Combat, you know, whatever. It's just a mess of parts that came from somewhere else, just like old Frankenstein did. But I'm pretty sure the 1911 handguns were built way before the before the Frankenstein movie come out. You know, somebody will fact check me and tell me I'm wrong, but I'm thinking the 1911 was probably built, I'm gonna guess Frankenstein was probably not until the 30s or something. I have no idea. I'm just throwing a guess out there. So, and modular, we talk about modular today with handguns. I don't know, but in my mind, when I can take this piece and this piece and switch them all out, I'm already modular. So it could be that the terminology wasn't there in the 1911, but the idea was there. All interchangeable parts, and I could adjust them. Anyway, what my son-in-law done here was he took this, and I'm gonna think it's a pair ordnance slide and receiver. You can have one shipped to your FFL. And then you just start picking up parts out of that are on sale. Midway, Palmetto State Armory. You go get you some custom pistol grips. I think these are just plastic ones that he spray painted. Hell, change the color once a week if you want to. You build what you like and personalize it yourself. He did say he'd like to have another set of sights on there. And you know, these are not dovetail cuts, so he would have to have that taken to a machine shop and cut, and then he could put Novaks or adjustable sights or anything you wanted on there. And that's even more better. You know, keep in mind one thing though, when you start doing customization on a 1911, there's a couple things that you need to keep in mind. Number one, it can get very expensive because it's not being mass produced, or it can be just the opposite. Certain 1911's got an extra hammer. I give it to you. Certain 1911's got an extra trigger. You can have it in exchange for a box of 12-gauge shells. You can do these things and get a very inexpensive weapon. However, you can also buy nice handguns, decent handguns for 500 bucks. You can run up 500 bucks real quick in parts. You know, when you start talking about Sears and stuff like that, it's 100 bucks a piece and stuff. Wilson Combat, Nighthawk Custom, and these things, Caspian, they're expensive. So you can, if you're not careful, expend way more money into building your own Frankengun than you could have bought a nice handgun. I tell you what we're going to do though. Let's do a trigger check on this. You know, you need to know what you're doing when you're building these things, just simply because, and I'll just show you real quick. You know, we got the safety on the 1911 right here. It works. All right. Let me turn around this way, see. It works. The safety does work. When you're building custom 1911s, that part right there is usually one of your biggest parts to give you some problem with. Sometimes you have to take a file to get those hand fitted. Not all the time, sometimes they'll drop in, but sometimes they're not. Now, one of the things you got to remember when you're doing these things yourself is do that safety test, because you know it could be if you don't have that spring in the back, guess what? You can pull this trigger. If this safety's not working right, it'll go off. It needs to go off. Seems like he's done a good job on this one as far as safety goes. Let's go and see how the trigger pulls. You know, trigger pull is totally up to you when you're building your own. You can polish and polish and polish until you get them way down there, or you can stop when they first go in. This is going to be relatively good. That's 4.4. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. You know, nothing wrong with this pistol at all. I think it's going to function well. The sights on it are not something you're going to use for accuracy or competition or something. And this muzzle brake on there, that kind of takes away from the part of concealed. You know, it's not really, you've added, well, let's see. You've added 1.5 inches probably to the overall length of the handgun. So this is not a concealable handgun, and it's not a competition gun. You know what it is? It's a personalized, this is what I like, handgun. So in my opinion, Sarge 1911 says, so long as it goes bang, 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 booyah. Let's go outside and light it up. Okay guys, here we are outside the hideout. We're talking about the Frankengun here. You know, I just happened to look at the magazine, which I didn't pay attention to earlier. This is a Nighthawk magazine. Nice high quality magazine. All good. You know, one of the things that we can talk about with these things is make sure when you are building these things, you do them safely. That's the main thing. I'm gonna say safety's always got to be your first consideration. If you're having trouble with that safety and you can't get this safety to work, stop. Ask somebody, get some help. If you for some reason have got one that this safety back here on the back is not working, stop. Get some help. You know, it's always better to ask for help before you have an accident instead of at the time of the accident. You know, it's a little bit too late. So, you know, this shoots a nice little gun. Like I said, the sights are not there, but you know, for Sarge 1911, sights are not that big a deal anyway. We should be learning to point and shoot. One thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot a magazine full of ammo, but I couldn't help but just do it because I thought it was appropriate. We got a little extra length added on here to my Frankengun. I couldn't help but add a little bit of extra length here onto the ass end of this thing. So what I'm gonna do, and remember guys, up here is where the magazine index is on a 1911 magazine, not down here. So I could have this thing, whoop, drop it. I could have this thing going from here, all the way down here if I wanted to. Here's where the index is. One thing we got to worry about is the spring tension. That's it. Other than that, so we're gonna load up and try it. I'm gonna shoot this magazine full, and hope that it shoots. I'm gonna just try to hit my old redneck boys down there. See what I can do about them. Here we go. Uh-oh, Frankengun. I'm gonna bet that's a magazine issue. If I'm not feeding it all, so I'll tell you what, let's do. I'm gonna just continue right here just for a second. Let these roll out on the ground. Let me find my Franken magazine, and I'm gonna take a few rounds out of it. Yeah. Here, watch what I'm talking to you about a magazine. You'll notice this magazine, the way it's cut, when you push forward, that bullet's pushing down and it's sticking right there. So what we've got is a magazine problem and not a handgun problem. See how hard they are to come out with a hand? It's that spring keeping that tension on there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and load up a high quality magazine. And I'll guarantee you that was our problem. So see, sometimes more's not better. Sometimes it's the quality, not the quantity. I keep dropping things out here. Put my hearing protection on. Let's see what we get. All right, that went home. Go. Little problem on the extractor. Nothing much. Probably might have been the way I was holding the pistol. You know, all said and done, if he had fun building it and it's reliable, it goes bang, 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 hell, it's all worth it, isn't it? That's got to be part of it, guys. That's got to be part of what we're doing. We're having fun. When it's no fun anymore, let's quit doing it. But we also have to remember, protect our Second Amendment rights so we can have that fun whenever we need to, or if at any time it has to happen, we can defend ourselves and our family. You know, until we get together and shoot next time, shoot safe, shoot straight. HOOAH.